Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to use magic keys. Now that a trade is running, it can be managed with manual actions, triggers and quick actions. With the close buttons, the entire trade can be closed, 50% of it or a predefined percentage. From the input parameters list, set the close custom to 70 to close 70% of the trade volume. Once the trade is in profit, you can use the SL at entry button to immediately move the stop loss line to the entry price. It can be moved a few pips in profit instead of the precise entry price by specifying the pips amount in the input parameters list. The buffer is normally used to cover for commissions on a risk-free trade. The target at default, target at 1-2x and input pips can be used for the same purposes seen before. Since the calculator lines are not on screen, when these three buttons are pressed, they have a direct impact on the stop loss and take profit levels of the trade. Partial TP, partial SL and auto B are triggers that can be used to take an action automatically on the trade when the price hits a certain level. Partial take profit allows you to specify a price where a certain percentage of the trade is automatically close. The trigger price has to be between the entry price and the final take profit. The amount to close when hit can be specified in the inputs parameters list. There is also the possibility to move the stop loss to entry when this trigger is activated without having to set an auto B trigger. By default, the line appear at 10 pips in profit. If you always set the partial TP to a fixed pips amount in profit, setting the default partial TP distance parameter will result on the trigger line being placed by default at the right price. The trigger line can also be moved by dragging it with the mouse or by using the quick action buttons. Target at default, target at 1-2x and input pips will now have an impact on the trigger line since it's the editable line on screen. If the pips distance from entry differs for every trade, use input pips. If on a 1-2 risk reward trade there is the need of closing part of it at 1-1 risk reward, pressing the target at 1-2x button might help get the right price immediately. The trigger is not activated until the activate partial TP button is pressed. To cancel the trigger, press the relative button on the device or click the deactivate button. The other triggers work exactly the same, but they differ in purpose. The partial SL takes out a percentage of the trade when a trade negative price is reached. The auto B will move the stop loss at entry plus buffer when reached. Remember that for triggers to work, you need to activate them with the buttons in the bottom left part of the chart, and Metatrader cannot be closed, otherwise the triggers get cancelled.